Hello there, welcome to Africa News, bringing you the top stories on the continent. Seizing the last port city held by Al-Shabaab, AU-backed Somali forces take full control of the town of Barawe. Our correspondent Duncan Woodside is there. Yes to appearing at the ICC, but not as president. Kenya's leader Uhuru Kenyatta confirms he will attend The Hague, but in a personal capacity. And the Congolese author Fiston Mwanza Mujila is receiving rave reviews for his book entitled Tram 83. Frans van Kaat's reporters went to meet him. But first to our top story. Somali government forces, backed by AU troops, have taken full control of the last port city in the hands of Al-Shabaab militants. Heavy gunfire was heard in Barawe this Monday as troops seized the town situated on Somalia's southern coast, 135 miles from the capital, Mogadishu. Officials say Barawe was used to launch attacks on the capital, but the militants surrendered the town with little resistance. Mariam Saab reports.
Gunfire and bomb blasts on the streets of Barawe. In a successful joint campaign, Somali government troops and African Union forces purged the city of Al-Qaeda-linked militants Al-Shabaab. According to military officials, many of the rebels fled days before the soldiers surrounded the strategic port town.
It was not a strong resistance. It was very minimal, very minimal. The enemy would be so stupid to encounter, to stand against this force. This AMISOM force is a very superior force, so they wouldn't stand against it.
Al-Shabaab may be gone, but the threat remains. Soldiers sweep through the city amid fears that militants left bombs and booby traps behind. The battle continues on the ideological front. African Union troops are distributing propaganda flyers. For locals, the end of Al-Shabaab's 6-year monopoly means they're finally free to come and go as they please.
It is my great day because really Barawe, it was, the center of the Al-Qaeda. I am very happy because really I was aware from Barawe 6 years, 7 years, yeah. That's really, it is my first time to reach Barawe. That's my great day as a governor of Lower Shabelle.
The loss is a major blow to the militants. Barawe is one of Al-Shabaab's last significant remaining assets, a nerve centre of their operations over the past few years. The port city was a supply route for weapons, charcoal exports, food and the entry point for foreign fighters. They may be weakened, but Al-Shabaab rebels still control large swathes of Somalia, despite several military operations conducted by the Somali army last summer.
Well, Frans van Kaat, Duncan Woodside is in Barawe. Earlier I asked him whether the recapture of the town represents a significant blow for Al-Shabaab.
Well, it's a big blow to them. It follows as well a number of other significant blows over the last 3 or 4 years. They've lost a lot of cities across Somalia, including the capital, Mogadishu. That was 3 years ago in 2011, and a string of other towns as well, including the port of Kismayo. Previously, Kismayo was their main source of revenues. They were big charcoal exports from Kismayo. And then Barawe became the nerve centre thenceforth until the loss of that port over the last day or so. Now, Al-Shabaab's options in terms of conventional urban centres are now dwindling fast, and they're much more orientated now towards being a asymmetric group which carries out suicide bombings. But their sources of revenues obviously are now dwindling with their ability to tax the various trades, including charcoal, being reduced by these offensives by the African Union and Somali National Army.
Duncan Woodside reporting from Barawe, Somalia there. Well, next, Kenya's president has announced he will appear at the International Criminal Court this week. Uhuru Kenyatta faces 5 counts at the ICC over his alleged role in post-election violence in 2008 that left over 1,000 people dead. The Kenyan leader has, however, underlined he'll be attending The Hague in a personal capacity, not as president. Let's take a listen to him addressing Kenya's parliament earlier.
Let it not be said that I am attending the status conference as the President of the Republic of Kenya. Nothing in my position or my deeds as President warrants my being in court. So to all those who are concerned that my personal attendance of the status conference compromises the sovereignty of our people or sets a precedent for the attendance of presidents before the court, be assured this is not the case.
An American photojournalist who contracted Ebola while working in Liberia has arrived in the US to undergo treatment for the deadly epidemic. Ashoko Mukpo was transported to an isolation unit at the Nebraska Medical Center. He's the fifth American to return to the US for treatment since the start of the latest Ebola outbreak in February. Meanwhile, the AU Commission chief has called for travel bans imposed to stem the Ebola virus to be lifted.
You do a travel ban, people will find ways of coming in. And if they find ways of coming in, it means they will not declare themselves that they are there, and you'll not be able to follow them. You'll not be able to give them the treatment they may need, and you may not be able to protect your own citizens, which you may be thinking you are protecting.
Well, to the Central African Republic now, where ongoing instability is impeding the distribution of vital goods. Some residents in the capital, Bangui, say they haven't received salaries for months, and to top it off, food prices are rising at an alarming rate.
Marguerite is a midwife who has worked in a hospital in Bangui for 23 years. These days, one of her main worries is to feed her family. She hasn't been paid for 5 months, and she cooks only vegetables, and she can't afford to buy meat.
A kilo of meat costs anywhere from 2,500 to 3,500 CFA francs these days. It makes me want to cry.
Marguerite's husband is a French teacher. He's not been paid for the past 5 months either. He says the conflict has blocked food production and distribution.
This situation began with the arrival of the Seleka, because, as you can imagine, everyone just fled. Farmers escaped into the bush because they were attacked in their fields. Hunters were afraid to work, and so were fishermen. This meant the price of food skyrocketed.
A butcher in Bangui's market says if he wants to buy beef, he has to go as far as the Central African Republic's border with Cameroon, and this pushes prices up.
If you want to buy a live animal, it costs between 800,000 and 1 million CFA francs, 4 times the price it was before. When I travel to the border, this costs money, and that means I have to double or triple my prices.
This is why Marguerite Danouet cannot afford meat. Since her salary is not paid, the family are obliged to live on vegetables and sometimes smoked fish when she can afford it.
And finally, a book about a bar where shady characters gather is gaining a lot of attention here in France. Written by the Congolese author Fiston Mwanza Mujila, Tram 83 is causing quite a stir. The book's success is being credited to its original lyrical style. France 24's Nicolas Germain went to meet the author.
Kinshasa, Lubumbashi and Buji-Mayi. These 3 lively Congolese cities inspired the young author Fiston Mwanza Mujila for his first novel, Tram 83. It's the name of a bar where musicians, alcoholics, prostitutes, criminals and writers gather. His style is striking. Reading his book, you feel you're listening to a poetry slam.
If a text has no style, then it's better to write an essay. Literature is about rhythm, melody, tempo, things that create a specific atmosphere.
At 33, Mujila wants to do to literature what John Coltrane and his album Giant Steps did to jazz.
It's his first important album. He tries to go beyond jazz. With my book, I try to go beyond what I already knew about literature.
Asked about his style, Mujila suddenly breaks into a slam.
Why not delve into the sources of oral literature, to carry, to shit, to bark one's text, to say it with your belly, your guts, your hearts, to vociferate the text, to vomit it, to spit it out, to expunge it, to wear it out and chew it.
Mujila currently lives in Austria, where he's working on a PhD on Congolese literature. He has yet to start his second book. For now, he's just enjoying the moment as his novel has received rave reviews here in France.
Right, you're up to date. Mark Owen will be here shortly with more international news.